I only came home to grab my laptop, but found 82 people in the backyard. And a banner read, "He said yes. My ex. My brother. Matching rings." My mom pulled me aside and whispered, "We took out a loan in your name, just $19,000. I just said nothing. Froze the transfer. Then I sent one file to the Projector laptop, a shocking video clip. Just 17 seconds. From 3 months ago. By 12:14 p.m., the music had stopped, just like their engagement. When I arrived, I thought maybe someone on the block had died or was throwing a wedding. But then I heard the music. I walked around the side of the house and stopped dead. 80-some people in the backyard, a champagne tower, buffet tables. Someone had brought in one of those dumb flower walls with gold balloons. Right in the middle, a banner in big scripted letters. He said, yes. People were holding up phones, taking pictures, clapping, cheering. And then I saw them. Ethan, Claire, my brother, my ex. They stood under the banner holding hands, both wearing rings. She kissed him and the crowd screamed. The photographer snapped away like it was a fairy tale. And I just stood there invisible in my own backyard watching two people who used to mean something to me, used to be my family, pretend like this was normal, like it was something to celebrate. No one had warned me. No one had even texted. Then my mom came over like she was hoping I wouldn't make a scene. She pulled me behind the side gate and smiled. Actually smiled. "We took out a loan in your name," she said. "Only $19,000. You'll get it back. We just wanted to make today special." I stared at her. "Oh, and the $2,500 in your safe. We used it for decorations and alcohol. Don't be dramatic. It's not like you needed it." That's when everything stopped. I didn't say a word. I didn't yell or throw anything. I just turned around and walked into the house, found the laptop, opened it, and I remembered something. 3 months ago, Claire had given me a key to her place way before we broke up for emergencies. I never returned it. I never used it either. But one night, I was nearby and forgot my phone charger. She wasn't home, so I let myself in. I walked in on Ethan, shirtless, with Megan, Claire's best friend, sitting on the couch in one of Claire's t-shirts. Laughing, he froze. Megan didn't even bother pretending it wasn't what it looked like. I said nothing. I left and I never told anyone until now. I had a clip. Short, quiet, but enough. I snapped it with my phone, more out of instinct than anything. I found it, trimmed it down to 17 seconds, and transferred it to the Projector laptop someone left logged in. Too easy. At 12:14, right as Ethan raised the glass and started talking about forever, the speakers glitched, the music stopped, and the video started playing on the giant screen behind him. 17 seconds, Ethan, Megan, Claire's couch, Claire's shirt, Claire's apartment. The sound cut out completely. You could hear people breathing. Claire turned slowly to look at Ethan. He tried to speak, but she didn't let him. She took off the ring, dropped it into the champagne glass, and left. That was the last normal moment anyone in that backyard had, and it was just the beginning. The next morning, no one spoke. My parents moved around the house like ghosts. The backyard still looked like a war zone. Half-popped balloons tangled in the grass, plastic cups scattered under chairs, a champagne bottle floating in the kiddie pool. Someone had written, "Congrats," on the sliding glass door in gold marker. No one bothered to clean it off. Ethan hadn't come home. Claire was gone. The silence in the house was heavy, like even the walls were waiting for someone to say something. No one did. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee while my mother pretended to organize the fridge for 20 minutes straight. My dad paced between the living room and the hallway, muttering half-thoughts to himself like he was preparing for a job interview that didn't exist. They were waiting for me to explode. I didn't. I wasn't angry anymore. Something had snapped clean inside me. I was calm, detached, like this wasn't even my life, like I was just watching it happen to someone else. By that afternoon, my phone lit up. Texts, DMs, voicemails. Half the people at the party had something to say. Some were shocked, others curious, but the overwhelming majority were impressed. Respect. Man, that took balls. Good for you. Family or not, that was messed up. Even my cousin Hannah, who I hadn't spoken to in years, sent a message. Claire deserves better. So do you? One text stood out. From Claire. I'm sorry you had to find out that way. I didn't know about Megan. I didn't know how bad it was until I saw it like that. I didn't answer her. Not yet. The next night, Ethan stormed back in around midnight. I was in the living room watching TV when the front door crashed open. He came in yelling my name like I owed him something. I stood up and he got in my face, said I'd humiliated him, ruined everything that I'd set him up. I didn't say a word. Then my dad finally showed some backbone and told Ethan to sit down before he made it worse. Ethan threw a lamp across the room instead and stormed out again. The last thing he said before slamming the door was, "You'll regret this, George. Watch." I didn't watch. I just went upstairs. 2 days later, I got an email from the bank. A reminder that the $19,000 loan payment was coming up. Due in my name, linked to an old checking account I hadn't touched in years. I opened the documents. My signature was there, except I hadn't signed it. That's when I really understood who I was dealing with. My own mother had forged my signature. My father had clearly known. They didn't even try to deny it when I confronted them. My mom said something about family sacrifices and how they were going to pay me back anyway. It was casual for them. Just money, just a party. So I went to the police, filed a report for identity theft. Then I called the lawyer. 3 days later, the summons was served. You should have seen my mom's face when she opened the envelope. She didn't cry right away. She stood there frozen, blinking at the document like it had been written in another language. My dad exploded first, accused me of trying to tear the family apart. I didn't argue. I told them they did that without any help from me. Word spread fast. The family group chat exploded. At first, the usual defenders piped up. You're taking it too far. It's just money. That's your mother. But then the tide shifted. Aunt Mara called and said, I always knew something was off about the way they treated you. Uncle Tom offered to testify on my behalf. People who had stayed quiet after the video suddenly started speaking up. They remembered the look on Claire's face, the sound the ring made when it hit the champagne glass, the fact that I hadn't screamed, hadn't thrown punches. I just showed them the truth. Then karma started picking up speed. Ethan got suspended from his job. Something about misconduct and public image. HR had received a link to the video. His company didn't like being associated with scandal. Megan disappeared from Claire's circle entirely. She got dragged online by mutual friends. One post said, "Sleeping with your best friend's man? Trash." My parents had to start making payments on the loan they couldn't afford. Turns out the bank doesn't care about family misunderstandings. They tried to get me to drop the charges, called me selfish, said I was embarrassing them, that I was acting like a stranger. I said nothing. The best part, that wasn't even the revenge. That was just me reclaiming what was mine, because I wasn't done yet. A week after the court papers were served, I went back to the house for one reason, to open the safe. The one in the hallway closet that used to be mine before I moved out. I knew they hadn't changed the combination. My mom always assumed I wouldn't come back for anything. She was wrong. Inside the safe was $3,800 in cash. I took every bill, the $2,500 they stole, plus interest. I didn't leave a note. I wasn't living there anymore. So technically, it wasn't even theft. It was just correction. That night, I got a call from Claire. Not a text, an actual call. I didn't answer. She tried again the next day and I picked up. She said she was done with Ethan. Said she hadn't known about Megan. And when she found out it had been going on before we even broke up, it made her sick. She wasn't calling to apologize for everything, just to say she'd left him. Moved back in with her sister. Said she was sorry for not being better to me when it still mattered. We talked for 10 minutes, then 20, then a full hour. It wasn't romantic. It was something else. Clean, tired, honest. I hung up without making promises. Later that week, Ethan showed up outside my apartment. I should have known he'd find the address eventually. He didn't knock. He waited by the car. I saw him from the window just standing there like some pathetic horror movie villain who doesn't know when to go away. I opened the door and walked out, arms crossed, saying nothing. He stared at me like he was waiting for me to hit him or something, but I just leaned against the railing and asked what he wanted. He said he didn't care about Claire or the party or even the loan. He wanted payback. Said I humiliated him in front of everyone, made him look like a joke, ruined his job. He said, "This isn't over." And I said, "No, it's just finally starting." 2 days later, he keyed my car, slashed one of the tires. I filed a police report and handed over my apartment building's camera footage. He got charged with property damage. Minor, but it was enough to push his job to fire him completely. Then my parents came knocking. Not at my apartment, by email. Subject line: "We need your help." The email was full of excuses. My mom said they were struggling financially, that the loan payments were crushing them, that if I just dropped the lawsuit, they could start fresh. My dad chimed in at the end, basically begging. But what caught my eye was one sentence at the very bottom. "We raised you. This isn't how family treats each other." I didn't even respond right away. Instead, I called the lawyer and asked him to file for damages. The court date came fast. They expected me to back off. I didn't. My mother stood up in front of the judge and tried to cry. My father said it was all a misunderstanding, that they just wanted to give Ethan and Claire the day they deserved. The judge asked if I wanted to make a statement. I stood up, looked at the people who had lied to my face, stolen from me, used my name, and I said, "I'm not doing this out of hate. I'm doing it because they didn't care what they did to me until it cost them something." The judge ruled in my favor. They had to pay restitution for the stolen money plus legal fees. The next morning, I got another email from my mom. This one's shorter. "We're sorry. We understand. Now, please, just if you can find it in your heart to help us." I thought about it for a while. Then I sent back one line. "I'll help. Not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to be like you." Then I paid the next loan installment myself. Just that one. They haven't asked me for anything since the loan payment I made on their behalf was a statement, not a gesture. I wasn't forgiving them. I wasn't letting it go. I just wanted them to see that helping someone didn't have to come with strings, guilt, or manipulation. Unlike them, I didn't need to burn everything to make a point. After that silence, no thank you, no follow-up. I figured my parents were stunned, maybe even confused by the fact I didn't gloat. I didn't care. They expected me to fall back into the pattern. They thought one good deed meant I was back on the leash. But I wasn't going backward. Not anymore. I moved on. I changed my number, gave it to the people I wanted to keep, and left the rest behind. Ethan didn't stop. He tried dragging me through the mud, spreading whatever garbage he could think of. He told people I ruined his life because I couldn't handle losing Claire. Said I was a bitter freak who'd always resented him for being the favorite son. But here's what he didn't realize. By then, no one wanted to hear from him. The people who believed him didn't matter. And the ones who mattered had seen the truth with their own eyes. It's hard to twist the story when there's literal footage of you cheating at the party thrown to celebrate your engagement. He was radioactive now. Lost his job. Lost his second job. I heard from a mutual friend that he got fired again after yelling at a manager in front of customers. Someone recorded it, posted it online, went viral in the worst way. One night, Claire messaged me again. She said she moved into her own place, was working full-time at a nonprofit and seeing someone casually, nothing serious. She said, "I think this is the first time in years I felt okay." We kept it friendly. Occasionally, we'd text about shows we used to watch or weird things we remembered. She told me Megan had tried to reach out, but she blocked her. That part of her life was over. One afternoon, we ran into each other at a bookstore. Totally by chance. It wasn't awkward. We talked, browsed, even got coffee. She looked like herself again. Relaxed, not constantly on edge. Before we left, she said, "We weren't good together, but I'm glad we're not enemies." I agreed. I meant it. Then came the knock. It was a Thursday night. I was finishing dinner, not expecting anyone. I opened the door and froze for a second. My mom, she didn't look good. She looked worn out, like someone who had been living with regret, but too proud to name it. She was holding a box, plain cardboard, taped on one side. She didn't ask to come in, just handed it to me and said, "I owe you this." Inside were copies of the bank paperwork, forged signatures included, emails, printouts, even a check written out for exactly $2,500. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her. Then she said something that hit differently. "You always did everything on your own. Even when we made it harder for you, and you still turned out better than all of us." There was no tearful hug, no movie moment, just quiet acknowledgement of the mess they made. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't ask for help. She just left. I took the box inside and sat with it for a while, staring at the check, thinking about all the times I could have used even a fraction of that support when I was younger. How they never came through unless it benefited them. That check wasn't closure, but it was a mission. A week later, I drove to the house to pick up the last of my stuff. It was the first time I'd been there in months. Everything looked the same, but the feeling was different, emptier. I walked into my old room. Stripped bed, empty shelves, but the safe was still there in the closet. I opened it. It was completely empty now, cleaned out, wiped down, not just of money, but of memories. Downstairs, I passed by my dad. He was watching TV, eyes locked on the screen like I wasn't even there. He didn't say a word. Neither did I. That was the last time I set foot in that house. Not out of hate, just because I didn't need to anymore. After that final visit to the house, everything shifted. The weight I'd been carrying for years, quiet pressure from family, subtle digs, fake affection lifted. It wasn't a sudden freedom, more like stepping into a room with the windows open after living in a sealed one for too long. I finally had space to think, space to breathe. I moved into a better apartment, one with sunlight and quiet neighbors, and a landlord who didn't ask invasive questions. I started working longer hours, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I took up boxing, ran a 10K, even enrolled in an online business class. Just stuff I'd been meaning to do but never had the bandwidth for. That's what happens when you stop spending energy on people who drain you. Ethan, though, wasn't done trying to crash the party. 3 weeks after I cleaned out the safe, he emailed me. He sounded different, less rage, more desperation. Said he wanted to talk like adults and that he needed a fresh start. He tried to make it sound like he'd been humbled. He hadn't. The real reason came at the end. He'd burned bridges with everyone, friends, exes, coworkers. His record made it hard to get hired. Our parents were barely speaking to him. He wanted to rebuild trust, but included his Venmo. I didn't reply. Claire called the next day. She'd heard from him, too. Apparently, he'd been trying to get in touch with both of us. Told her he missed her, that he'd made a mistake. She laughed when she said it, but not the kind of laugh that makes you feel good. She was doing well, though. We weren't close, but we talked enough to know what was going on in each other's lives. Her nonprofit had started a mentorship program, and she asked if I wanted to volunteer. I said yes, and not just to be nice. Felt like something that mattered. I started helping kids with resumes, mock interviews, basic finance. Nothing fancy, but they listened. They trusted me, something I never got in my own house. Meanwhile, my parents kept their distance. They were paying the court-ordered restitution in slow monthly installments. I never chased them, never responded. That was the deal. They owed it. I didn't need to chase anything anymore. But then one night, I got another message from my mom. Short, cold, just said, "We're losing the house." Turns out between the loan payments, my dad's part-time hours, and the damage from the lawsuit, they were drowning. They had 60 days to figure something out or get out. I stared at that message for a long time. The old me 5 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago, would have felt guilty, would have tried to fix it. But I wasn't that person anymore. I called my lawyer the next morning and had him transfer the remaining payments into a trust. If they defaulted, the money wouldn't go to waste. It would be redirected to a scholarship fund through Claire's nonprofit. It was my final act in all this. A day later, I got one last message from my mom. "I don't understand how you can be so cold." And I replied, "I'm not cold. I'm just done being used." That was the last thing I ever said to her. 6 months later, everything was different. Not better in the way people usually mean it. Like life was suddenly easy or perfect. Just honest, quiet mine. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. Wasn't wasting energy asking why they did what they did. I'd built something solid without them, and I wasn't looking back. I kept volunteering with Claire's nonprofit. Not because of her, she moved to Denver to help open a second office, but because I liked the work. I liked the clarity of it. There were no hidden favors, no silent expectations, just people showing up because they wanted to get better. I got promoted at work, bought a new car. Nothing flashy, just something reliable, something I didn't have to worry about someone slashing the tires on. Ethan never recovered. He moved to a smaller town, tried to restart his life under a different version of himself, but word travels, and he couldn't outrun his own personality. Last I heard, he was working night shifts at a warehouse and still blaming other people for his mess. One night in December, I ran into my Aunt Lydia at the grocery store. She was always the quiet one at family events, the one who never said much, just watched everything. She hugged me and said, "You know, a lot of us didn't say anything back then, but we saw it. All of it. We just didn't know what to do. You were right to do what you did." That meant more than I expected. Later that week, a letter showed up at my door. No return address. Handwritten. It was from my dad. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask for help. He just wrote that they'd lost the house, moved into a small apartment 2 towns over, and that my mother wasn't doing well. He said he wasn't writing to ask for anything, just wanted to let me know. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel sad. Just done. And then one morning in spring, I opened the safe in my new apartment, the one I had installed myself, bolted into the closet wall. Inside were the documents from the case, the check my mom had written, the flash drive with the original clip. I took the flash drive out, walked to the backyard, and lit a fire in the fire pit. I didn't need the video anymore. I didn't need proof. Everyone already knew the truth. They just needed someone to say it out loud first. I tossed the drive into the flames and watched it melt. That was the real ending, not the drama, not the fallout. Just me sitting in my own space, surrounded by people I chose, holding nothing that wasn't mine, and knowing finally I wasn't angry anymore, just free. Mini update. A year later, I ran into Claire again. She was in town visiting her sister and stopped by the nonprofit office where I still volunteered once a week. We had coffee, caught up. There was no tension, no regret, just 2 people who survived the same storm and didn't blame each other for the wreckage. She told me she was seeing someone new. An artist laughed when she said he was the opposite of Ethan in every possible way. I told her I was happy for her and I meant it. I wasn't seeing anyone serious, but I wasn't lonely either. I had a quiet life now, and that was enough. Before she left, she hugged me and said, "You did the right thing, George. You changed the whole damn story." And walking back to my car, I realized she was right.